to bring in my next guest, who you could argue was the start of this entire battle to protect parental rights. His name is Sal Perulli. He is a Board of Education member in Garwood, and he got this whole thing rolling by standing up for mom and dad and kids. To bring my friend Sal Perulli on. He is with the Garwood Board of Education. Now, I'm going to give his disclaimer for him. Anything you hear from Sal today is not on behalf of the Board of Education. He is not speaking for any government entity. This is Sal as a person. Did I get that right, Sal?
You got it. Or business entity.
Or business entity, right. Want to get our disclaimers out there. First of all, cheers, Sal, and happy Election Day to you. So, here's the thing. Thank you to the staff at the North Brunswick Pub. Tip your servers. This is an outstanding place in New Jersey. So, about a year and a half ago, you uncovered this battle that we had no idea was going to be so huge, where there was a curriculum being pushed by the Department of Education at the state level and then infused into local libraries where kids had access to what any normal person would call pornography. Now, I've had the lawyers correct people and say, well, you can't really call it pornography. Let me tell you something. You've got depictions of sex acts available to 4th and 5th graders. So I don't care what you want to call it. It's bad and it's not appropriate for kids. And I'll take it a step further. Most parents who tried to read this stuff in Board of Education meetings were shut down, had the mics turned off, thrown out because it was not appropriate material. So Sal, you were one of the first that brought it to my attention. You have been through the ringer, you have been sued, you have been, they've had complaints against you, all for standing up for kids and parents. Tell me, take us back to where it started and how it started.
So, thank you. And the disclaimer was perfect. So I don't have to repeat it. So there was a big grassroots effort in my town, small town of Garwood, who we all noticed this was happening. During COVID, these standards and guidelines for sex ed were passed and then tried to force upon the school district. So I was the first one in the state.
Just to interject into that, it was June of 2020.
Correct.
So we had been locked down by this governor in March. We were trying to figure out how to get out while New Jerseyans were struggling with their kids doing their homework at the dining room table, trying to do Zoom classes while you were trying to balance work. Everybody's masked up. They were passing a sex curriculum.
Correct. And
Disgusting.
when we saw this, we saw what was in it, and literally it's telling school districts that you have to teach kids as young as kindergarten about anal sex, oral sex, and masturbation, and whatever gender they think they are or want to be. So I was the first one in the state to actually write a resolution and get a resolution passed that said, hey, our school district's not doing this, okay? We're going to keep the standards and guidelines. You got to keep those because of QSAC scores, which is, bribing the school districts. If you don't get a high QSAC score, they're not going to fund you.
They deny your funding.
They deny your funding,
right.
So it's bribery.
So the state literally treated the schools like they were a mafia organization.
100%.
And,
they still do.
We're not going to give you your VIG unless you do what we say.
Yeah, 100%. And so the resolution passed. Shortly thereafter, all of a sudden, I'm getting attacked. The Board of Ed flipped on me. I would find out that they had been pressured to get rid of me, to do something about us and turn the resolution over. So what they did was...
How many people on the board at the time?
9.
9-member board. Your resolution to get rid of this junk out of the schools.
Yeah, it's 7-2.
7-2. So 6 other folks said, yes, Sal, you're right. This is nonsense. Mm-hmm. How many of them turned?
All of them. What happened was they started making up... Well, 2 did not, okay, originally. And then I found out that they ended up voting me off the Clark Board of Ed. See, we are a sending district. Our kids go to high school in Clark. I sat on that Board of Ed also. And in the dark of night, with no reason, no legit reason, they had me pulled off that Board of Ed and replaced. And when I asked or pushed for a reason, a legit reason, because they started coming up with these crazy allegations against me, like I was leaking information from executive sessions and all this silly stuff.
Lies.
Just
we call them lies.
Lies to completely destroy my reputation. And now they're talking about ethic complaints that would destroy my life, that things that would really harm me. and they had me pulled off the Clark Board of Ed. So the next thing, myself and my attorney, Ron Baruti, you know Ron.
I know Ron.
Great guy,
He's
awesome
a fighter.
guy.
Ron's
you guys need an attorney, reach out to Ron. That's my plug for you,
Many of you
Ronnie.
actually know Ron because Ron was on our list as we went through this COVID nightmare and the lockdowns. Ron was on our list of attorneys. One of the things that we did with the radio station, at least I can speak for my show, is we turned it into a resource for people who are fighting big corporate, fighting the government, et cetera. So Ron was certainly one of those champions of liberty.
So Ron's been great. And what we did was we filed a notice of claim. And so that notice of claim is not a lawsuit. That's important. What it was, okay, you're not going to tell me why you want to pull all these fake charges against me and ethical reasons why you're pulling me off the Board of Ed for Clark, then we're going to have to do it legally. So we filed a notice of claim to try to get discovery. The Board of Ed then in turn, and it was the former Board of Ed attorney, he's now been fired, decided we're going to sue Sal. So they sued me not once, but twice. Personally. They came after me personally.
And let's back up. This all stemming from Sal Perulli saying, hey, you're teaching this inappropriate stuff in school. We're sexualizing the kids. We ought to stop it. And he had 7-2 support on his board. So this came out of nowhere.
Yep. And they were going. And I said it from the beginning. And the very first time I spoke to you was they're going to try to use me as an example, an example of what they can do throughout the state. So after they sued me twice, they lost both times. We filed a motion for them to cover all the costs for these lawsuits because state statute says, hey, if a Board of Ed member gets sued, we have insurance that says you have to cover those costs. Well, a judge just said no.
No, not going to cover.
Which, it sets such a horrible precedence now that they can go after any individual that stands up for parental rights and goes against their disgusting agenda.
Now, did you appeal that?
Well, we have to appeal it, and that's why I'm asking everybody to help.
All right, is there a Give, Send, Go?
Yes,
what is it?
Give, Send, Go /Parents Project.
So I will make sure, so I'm going to ask you to tag me on Twitter, at Bill Spadea, and we will share that. I will also put this on the New Jersey 101.5 website. So when this show gets posted to our free New Jersey 101.5, we're going to have the link to this because I think it's very important. So it's givesendgo.com
Parents Project.
Parents Project.
So it's extremely important because they've set now a precedence, if I don't appeal this, that they can go after any board member that stands up against them, and that board member will have no say. And they did this at this time because, as you said, there's so many board members that are running now for parental rights. They're standing up for our children. We're seeing these snowflakes start turning into snowballs. Look at what happened in Hanover with when they passed.
Well, they fought back.
In Hanover fought back.
And everybody thought they caved. They didn't.
Yes.
They actually waited for the right time to then throw out the entire policy.
Exactly. And you saw what the reaction of the Attorney General was. That's right. Sue them. I'm going to sue Hanover. So they went after Hanover. They sued them. It got thrown out.
Right.
And because the AG went after the whole board, the state, the taxpayers, had to cover those legal costs. And this is what's going to keep happening now.
And by the way, the result of that, they sue Hanover, they lose, it gets thrown out. The Attorney General then had to say that this was actually a guideline and not a mandate.
Yep.
So if you are a member of the school board, if you are running for school board today, it is election day, and we are live here from the North Brunswick pub in North Brunswick, right on Route 1 in Middlesex County. If you're running, and what time is it now? So we've got an hour and 21 minutes before the polls close.
Crunch time.
This is all about parental rights. And Sal, I will tell you that, and you can go to my website, by the way, billspadea.com. Go to billspadea.com. Across the top, there's a link. There's a tab that says About. Scroll down to Endorsements. And I'm just going to show you real quick. This is what it looks like, so you can all see this. So scroll down to the endorsement page. And I'm going to read a few of these names off later so you know who you're voting for. We've got more than 100 candidates that we have endorsed. Many of them, about a third of them, are running for Board of Education. So it's all about not only repealing what the state has done, but I will tell you, Sal, you go back to 2021 when the Republicans were figuring out how to lose to Murphy. We were focused on school board elections and a couple hundred new school board members. Then in 2022, when the Republicans were figuring out how to not turn Democrat seats into Republican seats in the House in New Jersey, we were focused on school board seats. All in, more than 500 new school board members. It's one of the reasons why we've had such pushback. Now this year, there's an opportunity. Hundreds and hundreds of school board members are on the ballot this year, and there is only one issue, and that is there is no way that you're going to push this gender ideology on my child without me knowing about it. We shouldn't be pushing it anyway, but at the first step, we got to get parents involved.
I believe also every state legislature is on the ballot who made your kids mask up. Just remember that.
Thank you for saying that.
Every legislature is on the ballot today who forced your kids to put those masks on and physically harm them. So, one more thing I want to say back into Ron is that,
and not just the masks, but the isolation. I mean, you see the rise in calls to the suicide hotline. We've had kids as young as 9 call the suicide hotline. I mean, what happened? And I've said this. Now, I'm going to say this, and this will make some of my Republican friends mad, but I'm the one that over 2 years has called out the Republicans that were weak on this. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about standing up for kids and parents and teachers, the rule of law. It's about standing up for the Constitution, standing up for our freedom. Now, I'm going to tell you from this seat today that I want you all to vote straight Republican, and I'll tell you why. We have to change majorities in Trenton or none of this gets solved. That said, day one, tomorrow, I'll be holding those new Republicans accountable to say, hey, you've got to follow the line of what parents and businesses and average citizens want to see in this state. Last word, because I know I got to run to my endorsements.
No.
Go ahead.
Sorry. And just to go back, if I lose this appeal, what attorney is going to want to take up a defense, when they know that there's no chance to win? And, again, column B in Union County, Republicans straight down the line. We need to win this. We need to have parents in Hanover. Make sure you're out there voting for that team that stuck up for your kids, especially, because that's going to set the example throughout the state against the opposition who are endorsed by Murphy.
Sal, you've said it well, and I say this over and over again. I've been around. My wife Jody and I have been campaigning now for a year and a half, helping local candidates out and doing our part. And one of the things that I say repeatedly, and you're a great example of this, no one is coming to save us. Whether you love Donald Trump or you don't love Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was president, we lost a lot of our rights here in New Jersey. And the way we get them back is we build it from the ground up. So you thought maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it didn't matter who sat on the Garwood Board of Education. Sal Perulli sits on the Board of Education in Garwood, thankfully, as a champion of parental rights and student rights and education. We need to stop with the propaganda and the pronouns and start teaching American greatness, start teaching arithmetic, start teaching actual history, not social justice, garbage, revisionist history. And that's just the start of it. But Sal, I credit you with being one of the first people to bring it to my attention, which allowed me to get to the largest audience in the state, which in turn over the past 2 years, there is a groundswell of people out there, and you, Sal, deserve a lot of the credit. So you got to help this man because he took on the fight at tremendous risk. This is a guy that with all these legal bills, you're talking about loss of business, loss of dwelling. There are any number of things that can happen. But as Sal said, one of the most important things is you want to send a message to other boards of education members that, guys, it's okay to fight back because somebody has your back. So go to GiveSendGo.com and look up
Parents Project.
Parents Project. There's so many things. Parents' rights, parental rights. I got 900 things in my head. Yeah. Parents Project on GiveSendGo. Support Sal Perulli. Support every Board of Education member that is willing to stand up and fight for your rights. It's time. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Great to see you.
Appreciate it.
All right, really appreciate you coming on. All right, guys, as I wrap up, so here's what I'm going to do. Before I was late because of traffic, Sal, cheers. Happy Election Day.